need to tell someone about what happened during my last night shift at Mercy General Hospital. It's been 3 months since I quit, and I still can't sleep with the lights off. My therapist says writing it down might help, but I don't think anything will ever help me forget what I saw in Ward D, what I heard, what touched me in that darkness. They say hospitals are thin places, where the veil between life and death grows so fragile you can almost see through it. My grandmother used to tell me that the hours between 2 and 4 a.m. are when spirits walk most freely, when the dying slip away easiest, when things that shouldn't exist find their way into our world. I never believed her, not until that November night. I should start from the beginning. My name is Sarah Mitchell, and I took the job as a night shift orderly at Mercy General because I needed the money. My student loans were drowning me, and night shifts paid almost double. The hospital was old, built in 1927, and had that particular smell all old hospitals have, disinfectant trying desperately to mask something underneath, something organic and wrong. The first week was normal, or what passes for normal in a place where people come to die. I worked the 10 p.m. to 6 a.m. shift, mostly in the long-term care wing. My job was simple: check on patients every hour, help nurses with whatever they needed, clean up messes, and keep the halls quiet. The hospital had 5 floors, but my domain was the 4th floor, Ward D. 20 rooms, most of them occupied by elderly patients in various stages of decline. My supervisor, Margaret, was a woman in her late 50s who had worked nights for over 30 years. She had that hollowed-out look that comes from spending too many hours under fluorescent lights. During my orientation, she showed me the supply closets, the medication room, the nurse's station, all the practical things. But on my last night of training, she pulled me aside. "There are some rules for Ward D," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. We were standing in the hallway, and the lights flickered as she spoke. "They did that sometimes," she explained. "Old wiring." "First rule," she continued, her face serious, "never respond to voices calling from empty rooms. Sometimes you'll hear someone calling for help from room 412. That room has been closed for 6 years. Don't open it." I laughed, thinking she was hazing me. "Come on, Margaret, you don't really believe—" "Second rule," she interrupted, her face serious, "if you see someone in a hospital gown walking the halls after 2 a.m., don't approach them. Radio security first, always." "Why?" "Because we don't always know who they are." She paused, choosing her words carefully. "Or what they are." Third rule, the service elevator at the end of the South Hall, the old one with the accordion gate, never use it after midnight. Take the stairs or use the main elevator. "Margaret, this is crazy. What's really—" "Fourth rule," she said firmly, "if all the lights go out at once, stay exactly where you are. Don't move, don't speak. Wait for them to come back on." "What happens if they don't come back on?" She didn't answer, just handed me my schedule and walked away, her shoes squeaking on the linoleum floor. I thought she was messing with me. I really did. My first solo shift was a Tuesday, November 14th. I remember because it was my brother's birthday and I'd promised to call him during my break. The evening started normally. I checked in at the nurse's station at 9:45 p.m., got my assignment sheet, and began my rounds. Mrs. Patterson in 401 needed her IV adjusted. Mr. Chen in 405 had knocked his water cup over. Mrs. Rodriguez in 408 couldn't sleep and wanted to talk about her grandchildren. Normal things, human things. Around 11 p.m., the hospital settled into its night rhythm. The visitors left. The day staff went home. The fluorescent lights seemed to buzz louder in the silence. I was alone in Ward D, except for Linda, the night nurse, who spent most of her time at the station doing paperwork. I made my midnight rounds without incident. Everyone was sleeping or resting quietly. The hallway stretched before me, doors on either side, most of them slightly ajar. The hospital kept them that way so we could hear if anyone called out. Room 412, the one Margaret had warned me about, was at the far end of the hall. The door was closed and had a faded "Do Not Enter" sign taped to it. I stood there for a moment, staring at that door. Behind me, the ice machine hummed. Somewhere, a monitor beeped steadily. And then, so faintly I almost missed it, I heard something from inside room 412. A voice, singing. It was a woman's voice, thin and warbling, singing something that sounded like a lullaby. The melody was old-fashioned, the kind of song my great-grandmother might have known. I stepped closer, my hand reaching for the door handle before I remembered Margaret's warning. Never respond to voices calling from empty rooms. I pulled my hand back. The singing stopped abruptly, replaced by silence so complete it felt like pressure in my ears. I backed away from the door and hurried to the nurse's station, my heart hammering. "Linda," I said, trying to keep my voice steady, "room 412, has it always been closed?" She looked up from her charts, her expression unreadable. 6 years now. Why? I just thought I heard something. She nodded slowly, as if she'd expected this. "You'll hear lots of things on night shift, honey. Best to ignore most of them." She went back to her paperwork, clearly done with the conversation. I didn't hear the singing again that night, but at 2:17 a.m., I remember the exact time because I checked my watch, all the lights in Ward D went out at once. The darkness was absolute. Not the soft darkness of a room at night, but a thick, suffocating blackness that seemed to press against my eyes. I was in the hallway, halfway through my 2 a.m. rounds when it happened. I remembered Margaret's 4th rule: stay exactly where you are, don't move, don't speak. So I stood there in the darkness, my back against the wall, my breath coming quick and shallow. I could hear my heartbeat in my ears. I could hear the distant hum of machinery. And then, so faintly I almost missed it, I heard something from inside room 412. Footsteps. Slow, deliberate, coming from the direction of room 412. Tap, tap, tap. Bare feet on linoleum, getting closer. I pressed myself harder against the wall, biting my lip to keep from making a sound. The footsteps came closer. Closer. I could smell something now, something sweet and rotten, like flowers left too long in a vase. The footsteps stopped right in front of me. I could feel someone standing there in the darkness, feel their presence like heat radiating from a stove, feel their breath on my face, cold and wrong. And then the lights came back on. The hallway was empty, completely empty. Linda was still at the nurse's station, bent over her charts as if nothing had happened. None of the patient call lights were on. Everything looked exactly as it had before. But on the floor, right where the footsteps had stopped, were wet footprints, small, barefoot, leading from room 412 to where I stood, then disappearing. I didn't tell Linda. I didn't tell anyone. I convinced myself I'd imagined it. Old building, power fluctuations, strange acoustics, rational explanations. But I couldn't explain the footprints that dried and vanished as I watched. The next few shifts passed without major incident, but I began to notice small things, patterns. Room 412's door was always cold to the touch, even though the hallway was warm. Sometimes I'd see condensation on the door handle, as if someone with very cold hands had just touched it. The ice machine at the end of the hall would turn on by itself at exactly 2:17 a.m. every night. Not approximately 2:17, exactly. And patients started mentioning a little girl. Mrs. Patterson asked me one night, around 1 a.m., "Who's the child that keeps looking in my room?" "There are no children on this floor, Mrs. Patterson. You must have been dreaming." "No," she insisted, her voice firm despite her age. "I saw her, standing in my doorway. Little girl in a hospital gown. She had the saddest eyes. I asked if she was lost, but she just stared at me. Then she walked away down the hall. I checked the security logs. No children had been on the 4th floor that night. No children were even visiting the hospital after 8 p.m. 2 nights later, Mr. Chen told me the same thing. The little girl came to visit me again. She stands at the foot of my bed and watches me. I think she's lonely. What does she look like? I asked, humoring him. Small, maybe 7 or 8 years old, dark hair, hospital gown that's too big for her, and her feet, he paused. Her feet are always wet, like she's been walking through puddles. My skin went cold. She doesn't talk, he continued, just watches, but I can tell she wants something. She looks so sad, nurse, so very sad. I started asking other patients. Over half of them had seen her, always between 2 and 4 a.m., always in the same hospital gown, always with wet feet. None of them seemed afraid of her. That was the strangest part. They spoke about her the way you'd speak about a lost child in a shopping mall, with concern, with pity. Only I was afraid. I tried to research the history of Ward D. The hospital's records room was in the basement, accessible only during business hours. But I did find some old newspaper clippings online. In 1983, a little girl named Emily Brennan had died on the 4th floor. She'd been 7 years old, suffering from leukemia. According to the article, she'd passed away in the early morning hours of November 22nd, in room 412. I convinced myself this was just coincidence, just collective delusion, patients dreaming, night shift exhaustion creating phantom sightings. I would have kept believing that if not for what happened on November 22nd, the anniversary of Emily Brennan's death. I almost called in sick that night. I woke up that afternoon with a sense of dread so profound I felt physically ill. But I needed the money and I'd never called in sick before. Besides, what would I say? That I was afraid of a ghost story? The shift started normally. I arrived at 9:45 p.m., checked in with Margaret, who gave me a long, searching look but said nothing. Linda was already at the nurse's station when I arrived in Ward D. "You look tired," she observed. "Couldn't sleep today." She nodded sympathetically. "Night shift will do that to you. Your body never quite adjusts." She paused, then added quietly, "It's the 22nd tonight." "I know. Be careful. Some nights are heavier than others." I wanted to ask her what she meant, but she'd already turned back to her computer. The evening rounds went smoothly. Patients were quiet, settled. The hallway lights hummed their usual electric song, but the air felt different, thicker, like before a thunderstorm when the pressure changes and you can feel it in your bones. At midnight, I was helping Mrs. Rodriguez back to bed when she grabbed my wrist. Her grip was surprisingly strong for someone so frail. "The little girl is here tonight," she whispered. "I can feel her. She's restless." "Mrs. Rodriguez, there's no..." "She's looking for something or someone." Her eyes were wide, frightened. "Don't go near room 412 tonight. Promise me." I promised, but promises are easy to break when curiosity becomes an itch you can't ignore. At 1:30 a.m., I found myself standing in front of room 412 again. I don't even remember walking there. One moment I was at the nurse's station, the next I was in front of that door with the faded "Do Not Enter" sign. The door was open, just a crack, maybe an inch, but it had definitely been closed before. I was certain of it. I should have walked away, should have called security, should have done anything except what I did next. I pushed the door open. The room was empty, completely bare, except for an old hospital bed frame and some dusty medical equipment in the corner. No sheets, no curtains, no sign that anyone had been there in years. Moonlight streamed through the window, illuminating particles of dust suspended in the air. But the room was freezing. I could see my breath misting in front of me. And there, on the floor beside the bed, was a wet footprint, then another, leading from the bathroom to the doorway where I stood. I backed out slowly, my hands trembling. As I turned to leave, I saw her. Standing at the far end of the hallway, a little girl in a hospital gown too big for her body, dark hair hanging in wet strands around her face, her feet bare and dripping onto the linoleum. She was staring directly at me. We stood there, frozen, looking at each other across the length of the hallway. She was so small, so impossibly small, and her eyes, even from that distance, I could see her eyes. They weren't angry or malevolent. They were pleading, desperate. She raised one small hand and pointed at me. Then she pointed at room 412, then back at me. And then she spoke. Her voice was like wind through dried leaves. "Help me. Please help me. I can't find my way." Every instinct screamed at me to run, but something in her voice, something so achingly human, rooted me in place. "What do you need?" I whispered. She took a step forward. Water dripped from her gown, from her hair, from her fingertips. "I'm so cold. I'm so tired of waiting. I just want to find her." Another step. "Why did she leave me? Why did everyone leave me?" She was halfway down the hall now, and with each step, the temperature dropped, the lights flickered. From the patient's rooms, I could hear stirring, confused voices calling out. "Emily," I said, surprised by the steadiness of my own voice. "Your name is Emily Brennan. You died in 1983. She stopped moving, tilted her head like a curious bird. "That's not right. I can't be dead. I'm just sleeping. I'm just waiting for my mother. She'll come," she promised. "Emily, your mother—" I stopped. What could I say? Your mother probably died decades ago. You're trapped here, haunting this hallway because you can't accept that you died alone. Behind me, I heard Linda's voice, sharp with panic. "Sarah, step away from her. Step away right now." But I couldn't move. Emily was crying now, tears streaming down her pale face.
"Everyone leaves me," she sobbed. "Everyone always leaves me. Even you're going to leave me." "I'm not." "Yes, you are." Her voice changed, became something else, something older and angrier and far less human. The lights went out, all of them, all at once. In the darkness, I heard her coming closer, the wet footsteps. Tap, 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 tap. Faster now, running. I pressed myself against the wall, exactly as Margaret had taught me. Don't move, don't speak, wait for the lights. But Emily wasn't following those rules. I felt small, cold fingers grab my wrist, felt her pull me forward with impossible strength, felt myself being dragged toward room 412. "If my mother won't come to me," Emily's voice whispered in my ear, "then I'll take someone else. You'll stay with me. You'll keep me company. You won't leave me like everyone else did." The door to room 412 loomed in front of me. I could feel it, even in the dark, that yawning emptiness, that cold void. Once I crossed that threshold, I knew instinctively I would never come back. I would become like Emily, trapped, waiting forever for something that would never come. I did the only thing I could think of. I screamed, "Linda! Margaret! Help me!" The lights came back on. Emily vanished like smoke. I was standing in the middle of the hallway, Linda and two security guards running toward me. My wrist ached where Emily had grabbed me, and when I looked down, I saw small, dark bruises forming in the exact shape of a child's fingers. They took me to the break room, made me drink hot coffee even though my hands were shaking too badly to hold the cup properly. Margaret sat across from me, her face grave. "I should have prepared you better," she said quietly. "I thought if I just told you the rules, you'd follow them and it would be fine. But Emily gets stronger on her anniversary. She gets desperate." "Tell me everything," I demanded. "All of it. No more cryptic warnings. I need to know what I'm dealing with." Margaret sighed. looking suddenly ancient. Emily Brennan died in room 412 on November 22, 1983. She was 7 years old. Her mother had stepped out for a cigarette. You could smoke in hospitals back then. And Emily went into cardiac arrest while she was gone. By the time they found her mother and brought her back, Emily was already dead. The mother never forgave herself, blamed herself for not being there. She became obsessed with the hospital, spent every night in Ward D, sitting in that room, talking to Emily as if she were still there. Eventually, security had to ban her. She killed herself 6 months later. Pills. Linda took over the story. Staff started reporting strange things immediately after Emily died. Crying from the empty room, a little girl's voice calling for her mother, wet footprints. Emily had taken a bath just before she coded, and she was still damp when they found her. But it got worse over the years. Emily started appearing to patients, started trying to get people to stay with her. 3 orderlies quit in the first year. 2 nurses had breakdowns. We closed the room, thinking that would help. It didn't. "She's getting stronger," Linda said. "Every year on the anniversary, she becomes more solid, more real, more angry. Why doesn't the hospital do something? Call a priest? An exorcist?" They tried, twice. The first priest said he couldn't help. Emily wasn't demonic, just lost and lonely and refusing to move on. The second one managed to quiet her for a few months, but it didn't last. She's tied to this place, tied to her grief. Until her mother comes back, which she never can, Emily will keep waiting. I looked at the bruises on my wrist. She tried to take me into that room. What happens if she succeeds? The 2 women exchanged glances. "We don't know for sure," Margaret finally said. But 30 years ago, a young orderly named Michael Reeves went into room 412 on November 22, 1983. He was never seen again. Hospital records say he quit without notice, but his family filed a missing persons report. They never found him. And sometimes, Linda added quietly, on the anniversary, patients report seeing 2 figures in the hallway, a little girl and a young man in scrubs, both of them dripping wet, both of them looking for something they'll never find. I felt sick. "Why do you stay?" I asked. "Why do any of you stay?"
Someone has to bear witness, Margaret said simply. Someone has to remember Emily, to acknowledge her pain, even if we can't ease it. If we all leave, if we close this ward, forget about her, I think she'll find a way to make us remember, and it will be worse. I went home that morning as the sun rose, transforming the hospital from a place of shadows into just another building. But I knew the truth now. When night fell again, the shadows would return, and Emily would be waiting. I should have quit. I meant to quit. I went home that morning, typed up my resignation letter, and fell into a dreamless sleep. But when I woke up that evening, I couldn't do it. Maybe it was pride. Maybe it was stubbornness. Or maybe, God help me, it was something else. A strange compulsion I didn't understand. That night in the hallway, when I'd looked into Emily's eyes, I'd seen something beyond the anger and desperation. I had seen a child who was suffering, who had been suffering for 41 years. Someone had to bear witness. Margaret's words echoed in my mind. So I went back. The next shift was November 23rd. I arrived early, my stomach churning with anxiety. But Ward D was calm, quiet. Emily was gone, as if she'd exhausted herself the previous night. The only evidence of her existence was the faint chill that lingered near room 412 and the bruises on my wrists that were turning a deep purple. I fell into a routine over the following nights. I learned the patterns. Emily appeared rarely between the 23rd and the end of the month, only brief glimpses, a shadow moving at the edge of vision, the sound of crying from an empty bathroom, those wet footprints appearing and disappearing. But I could feel her watching me, waiting. The patients noticed the change in me. Mrs. Patterson asked if I was feeling well. Mr. Chen offered me candy from his secret stash, saying I looked like I needed sweetness in my life.
Even Mrs. Rodriguez, who rarely spoke to staff, patted my hand one evening and said, "You have a kind heart, but be careful. The dead can sense kindness, and sometimes they cling to it." December arrived with early darkness and cold rain. Ward D took on a different character in winter. The old radiators clanked and hissed, creating new sounds I had to learn to distinguish from Emily's footsteps. The windows developed condensation that ran down like tears. On December 8th, something changed. I was doing my 2 a.m. rounds when I noticed a figure standing at the far end of the hallway. Not Emily. This was an adult, a woman in a dated hospital gown, her back to me, staring at the door of room 412. I approached slowly, quietly, one hand on my radio. As I got closer, I could see her more clearly. She was thin, almost skeletal, with long gray hair hanging limp down her back. She was shaking, sobbing. "Ma'am," I said softly, "are you all right? Are you a patient here?" She turned around and I bit back a scream. Her face was wrong. Not obviously wrong, all the features were where they should be, but her eyes were empty. Not blind, not vacant, empty. Like someone had scooped out everything human and left only the shell behind. "My daughter," she said, her voice flat and mechanical. "Have you seen my daughter? I need to find my daughter. I left her alone, and now I can't find her. Where is she? Where is my daughter?" Her voice rose to a scream on the last words. Lights flickered, doors slammed. From every room, patients began calling out in confusion and fear. The woman, Emily's mother, or something wearing her face, started walking toward me. Not walking, gliding. Her feet weren't touching the ground. "You know where she is," she said. "I can see it in your face. You've seen her. You've talked to her. Take me to my daughter. Take me to Emily now." I should have run, but Margaret's words came back to me. Emily will keep waiting until her mother comes back. What if this was the answer? What if bringing them together would finally give them both peace? "She's in room 412, I heard myself say. "That's where Emily is. That's where she's always been." The mother's face twisted into something that might have been a smile. Room 412. Yes, that's why I left her. That's where I killed her. She turned and glided down the hallway toward the closed door. I followed, my heart hammering, unsure if I was doing something heroic or monumentally stupid. The door to room 412 opened before she touched it, swung wide to reveal that bare room with its empty bed frame and dusty equipment. The mother stood in the doorway, and I heard her make a sound, a low, keening wail that raised goosebumps on my arms. "Emily," she called. "Emily, baby, Mommy's here. Mommy came back for you." The temperature in the hallway dropped so fast that ice crystals formed on the walls. The lights went out, and in the darkness, I heard a different voice. A child's voice. Emily's voice. "Mommy?" In the darkness of Ward D, with ice forming on the walls and the sounds of two ghosts calling to each other, I finally understood the horror of what was happening. The lights came back on in stuttering flickers. Emily stood in the doorway of room 412, no longer the sad, pleading child I'd seen before. She looked solid, real. Her hospital gown was soaked through, her hair plastered to her face, water streaming from her in rivers that should have been impossible. And her face, God, her face. It was twisted with rage so pure it barely looked human anymore. "You left me," Emily said, her voice echoing strangely, as if multiple voices were speaking at once. "You promised you'd stay. You promised you'd be there. But you left me." The mother thing, I couldn't think of it as a person anymore, backed away from the door. "I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I just needed a minute. I just needed—" "Liar!" Emily shrieked. The windows shattered. Glass exploded inward. "You hated me. You hated being trapped with a sick child. You wanted to get away from me. You wanted me to die." No, baby, no. You killed yourself to get away from me. You chose death over being my mother. You left me twice. The mother stumbled backward, and I saw through the rage and denial to the truth underneath. This wasn't Emily's mother coming back to save her daughter. This was Emily's mother's guilt, manifested by the same forces that kept Emily trapped. Two ghosts locked in an internal cycle of abandonment and rage, neither able to forgive or forget. Emily advanced on her mother, and where her feet touched the floor, the linoleum turned black, corrupted. But now you're here. Now you can't leave. You'll stay with me forever. We'll both be trapped together in this hallway, in this moment, replaying the worst night of both our lives forever. The mother was crying, black tears streaming down her face. Please, please, Emily, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. Sorry isn't enough. Emily reached for her mother, and where their hands touched, both of them began to fade, becoming transparent, becoming nothing. You don't get to leave me again, Emily said, her voice growing distant. Never again. Never. I ran forward without thinking. Emily, stop! Both ghosts froze. Emily turned to look at me, and her expression cycled through confusion to recognition to something like hope. You, she whispered. You see me. You really see me. I see you, I confirmed, my voice shaking. I see you, Emily. I bear witness to your pain, to your mother's pain, to all of it. It hurts, Emily said, and suddenly she was just a child again, small and scared and so very tired. It hurts so much. I'm so angry. I'm so sad. I just want it to stop. I want to stop feeling this way. Her mother had collapsed on the floor, sobbing. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I looked between them, two souls caught in an endless loop of trauma, neither able to move forward, both poisoning this place with their unresolved grief. And I realized something. Margaret was wrong. Bearing witness wasn't enough. Someone had to break the cycle. Emily, I said gently, crouching down to her level, your mother left you. She made a terrible mistake, and she's sorry, but sorry won't change what happened. You died. You died alone and scared, and that was unfair and wrong and tragic. Emily nodded, tears streaming down her translucent face. But you're still here. You've been here for 41 years, waiting for something that will never make it better. Your mother came back, and it didn't help. It just made the anger worse. What else is there? The anger is all I have left. You could let go. You could stop waiting, stop punishing yourself and your mother. You could forgive, not because she deserves it, but because you deserve peace. I don't know how, whispered Emily. I held out my hand. I'll help you, but you have to choose it. You have to want to let go. Emily looked at my hand, at her mother, still weeping on the floor, at the hallway that had been her prison for 40 decades. I'm scared, she said. I know, but someone is waiting for you on the other side, someone who loves you and never left you. You just have to be ready to see them. Emily reached out slowly. Her hand passed through mine, cold and insubstantial as mist. But I felt something, a connection, a recognition of shared humanity between the living and the dead. Okay, I'm ready. I'm so tired. I just want to rest. The air in Ward D changed. The oppressive cold lifted. The shadows receded. Emily began to glow with a soft, warm light that seemed to come from within her. Her mother looked up, seeing her daughter truly for the first time. Emily? Baby? Goodbye, Mommy. And there was no anger in her voice now, just sadness, just acceptance. I forgive you, not because what you did was okay, but because I can't carry this anymore. I release you. As she spoke, both ghosts began to fade, not violently, not with drama, just gently dissolving, like mist in morning sun. The mother reached for Emily one last time, their hands touching and passing through each other, and then they were gone. The hallway was empty, silent. The temperature returned to normal. The broken windows weren't broken. Everything was exactly as it should be. Except room 412's door was standing wide open, and inside, I could see something on the dusty floor. I walked in, my footsteps echoing in the empty space. There, on the ground beside the bed frame, was a small bracelet, the kind they put on hospital patients. The plastic was yellowed with age, but I could still read the faded letters: Brennan Emily, DOB, 4/15/1976. I picked it up carefully. It was the only physical proof that Emily Brennan ever existed, that she'd suffered here, that she'd finally found peace.
The rest of that shift passed in a daze. Linda found me in room 412, holding the bracelet, tears streaming down my face. She didn't ask questions, just put a hand on my shoulder and led me back to the break room. "Is she gone?" Linda asked. I nodded. Both of them. Margaret arrived shortly after, brought in by some night shift instinct. When I told them what had happened, neither woman seemed surprised. Relieved, yes. Sad, definitely, but not surprised. "We've been hoping," Margaret admitted. "Hoping someone would finally reach Emily, help her let go. We couldn't do it. We were part of the pattern. The staff who saw her night after night but couldn't change anything. She needed someone new, someone who could see her without decades of weariness weighing them down." I worked the rest of my shift in a state of numb exhaustion, but Ward D felt different, lighter. The patients slept more peacefully, the lights didn't flicker, the ice machine stayed silent at 2:17 a.m. As dawn broke and my shift ended, I stood in front of room 412 one last time. The door was closed now, the "Do Not Enter" sign still taped to it, but I felt no cold emanating from within, no sense of presence, just an empty room in an old hospital. I gave my 2 weeks notice that morning, not because I was scared anymore, but because I'd done what I came to do, even though I hadn't known I was there to do it. On my last night at Mercy General, Margaret pulled me aside. "I need to tell you something," she said, "about the rules." The rules were true, weren't they? Yes, but not complete. She handed me a worn notebook. "This is a journal kept by the night staff over the years. Everyone who's worked Ward D has added to it, recording the rules, the incidents, the attempts to understand Emily." I flipped through it. Dozens of handwritten entries spanning decades, observations, theories, failed attempts to help, a collective effort to bear witness. "There's one more rule," Margaret said. "One we never told new staff because it sounded too cruel. But now that Emily's gone, you should know." "What is it?" Margaret looked at me with eyes that had seen too much. "Rule 5. If Emily ever asks you to stay with her and you say yes, you become the next one trapped. Michael Reeves said yes. He wanted to help her so badly that he agreed to keep her company. We found his ID badge in room 412 3 days later, but never him." My blood ran cold. She asked me to stay. "But you didn't say yes. You offered her something better. You offered her a choice to leave." Margaret squeezed my shoulder. "That's the difference between being trapped by compassion and being freed by it." I handed Emily's hospital bracelet to Margaret. "What should we do with this?" She held it carefully, reverently. "I'll make sure it's buried properly. She deserves that much. A marker, a place where people can remember her as she was, not as what grief made her become." 3 months later. I'm working as a nurse's aide at a small clinic now. Day shift only, no night work. I sleep with the lights on, and I probably always will.
But sometimes, late at night when I can't sleep, I think about Emily. I think about how many places in this world hold trapped souls, people who died with unfinished business, with unresolved pain, with anger so profound that it anchors them to the earth. I think about how many hospitals, houses, roads, and rooms have their own Emily Brennans, waiting for someone to see them, to bear witness, to offer them the choice that no one else could. Last week, I received a package from Margaret. Inside was the journal, the one with decades of entries from Ward D's night staff. A note was attached. Sarah, Ward D has been quiet since you left. Peaceful. The patients sleep better, the lights didn't flicker, the ice machine stayed silent at 2:17 a.m. I'm retiring next month, and this journal needs a keeper, someone who understands what it represents. I think that person is you. If you ever work night shift again in any hospital, you'll know what to look for. The signs are always the same. The cold spots, the flickering lights, the sounds that don't quite make sense, and the presence of something that refuses to leave. Remember the rules, all of them. Remember to bear witness. But most importantly, remember that sometimes the dead don't need us to stay with them in their darkness. They need us to show them the way back to the light. Margaret.
I keep the journal on my nightstand now. I've read through every entry, learning the stories of other lost souls who haunted Ward D over the years. Emily wasn't the first. She was just the strongest, the most desperate. And sometimes in that space between sleeping and waking, I hear child's voice, not Emily's, someone else's, calling from somewhere I can't quite place, asking for help, asking to be seen. I don't know if I'll answer that call. I don't know if I'm strong enough to face another Emily, another trapped soul in another dark hallway. But I know one thing for certain. I'll never forget the rules. I'll never forget the girl with wet feet who waited 41 years for someone to truly see her pain. And I'll never forget the truth I learned in Ward D. The worst horror isn't what goes bump in the night. It's the realization that some of those bumps are people, or what used to be people, who are so lost in their own suffering that they've forgotten how to stop haunting the places where they died. If you work night shift, anywhere, in any capacity, pay attention. Pay attention to the cold spots that shouldn't exist. Pay attention to the sounds that don't have sources. Pay attention to the stories the old-timers tell, the warnings disguised as superstition, the rules that seem ridiculous until the night you need them. And if you ever see someone who shouldn't be there, standing in a hallway or a corridor or a room that should be empty, ask yourself, are they alive or are they like Emily, trapped between worlds, waiting for someone to acknowledge their pain? Because the dead are all around us. Not all of them have moved on, and some of them are still waiting for someone brave enough or foolish enough to help them find peace. I found Emily. I helped her let go. But Margaret's journal has 17 other entries, 17 other spirits that have appeared in Mercy General over the years, 17 other stories that end with still present or unresolved or continuing activity. Emily may be gone, but Ward D and countless places like it still have secrets buried in its walls. And now that I know how to see them, I can't unsee them. I can't unknow what I know. Neither can you. That was my story, my true story from my time working night shift at Mercy General Hospital. But here's the thing that keeps me awake at night. What if Emily wasn't unique? What if every hospital, every old building, every place where people have suffered and died has its own Emily, its own trapped soul waiting for someone to see them? What if one of them is waiting for you? Have you ever worked a night shift and felt like you weren't alone? Have you ever heard footsteps in an empty hallway, seen a shadow that moved wrong, felt a presence that shouldn't be there? Drop a comment below and tell me your story. Tell me about the strange things you've experienced during the night hours.
Tell me about the rules you learned, the warnings that seemed crazy until they saved your life. Because the more I read Margaret's journal, the more I realize that Emily's story isn't rare. It's just one thread in a massive web of unexplained encounters happening every night, all over the world, to people working in the dark. Like this video if you believe there's more to the night shift than just darkness and silence. Share it with anyone who's ever worked overnight, in hospitals, security, factories, warehouses, anywhere the lights stay on, but the world feels empty. And subscribe, because Emily's story is just the beginning. Margaret's journal has 16 other entries, 16 other spirits, 16 other stories of the night shift encounters that can't be explained. Next time, I'll tell you about the man in the basement and why the maintenance crew at Mercy General refuses to go down there alone after midnight. Until then, remember the rules. Stay alert during the witching hours. And whatever you do, if you hear someone calling to you from an empty room, don't answer. See you in the next one, if you're brave enough to come back.